The next speaker that we have coming up is Ouriel Ohayon from ZenGo.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, thanks.
I hope I did an okay job with pronouncing your name. I did what I could. Okay, thank you very much. I'll go ahead and jump off and leave you to start. Thank you.
Fantastic. Hi everyone. Very nice to meet you. Although I cannot see you, I'm here to talk about everything that you need to know about Bitcoin and crypto at large, but never dare to ask. So the goal of this presentation is really to cover the topics that are usually a bit tricky, around this industry. So first, I'm the CEO of ZenGo, Ouriel Ohayon. ZenGo is a general purpose crypto wallet. It supports all sorts of coin, and you can do all sorts of things with it. It's incredibly well designed, and you will enjoy it. It's great security without typical headaches that you find in other places. I will not name names, and if you have the time, try it. It's starting to become quite popular. So I want to start with the typical kind of things you're not realizing when you are not yet in crypto, and that you think you're doing right, but you're actually not doing right. And I think it's very, very important to bear those in mind. So the first thing that is important to understand in crypto is that you need to own your crypto. It's not because it's beautiful philosophical principle, is because this is what enables you to act as part of the digital economy. You can see here a tweet of someone that recently wrote, and I answered, tell me you don't own Bitcoin without telling me you don't own any Bitcoin. And, I answered, I bought Bitcoin on PayPal and Robinhood. And it's actually funny because you have the impression that indeed you have acquired Bitcoin by purchasing it in a place that allows you to do it. But the reality is that you don't. And the reason that you don't is because those platforms and the custodians, they cut you off the ownership of the Bitcoin. How do you know that? You know that when, for example, you cannot move the Bitcoin out, or when you're not able to restore it anywhere you want, or when you're not able, for example, to use your Ethereum to purchase an NFT, etc., etc. So always ask yourself, do I own the crypto that I have purchased or that I have received? And there is a typical confusion about the concept of buying Bitcoin or buying crypto and owning it. And so that really, really matters. So that's kind of the first point I wanted to make. The second one is a typical confusion about blockchain transactions, in particular for people that are new to cryptocurrency, because they are used with the language of money, right? So when you use a typical wallet or a typical bank system, you're sending a transactions, and there are many things that you are used to. They are extremely fast. They can be extremely cheap, sometimes even free. And if you made a mistake, you can always cancel them or reverse them. But with blockchain transactions, you cannot do that. They cannot be reversed. They are not instantaneous. They can take time, sometimes a long time, especially now, for example, with Ethereum, but also with Bitcoin. So unless you're using the Lightning Network, but that's something else. And they require confirmations, meaning that there is this ignorance or this not awareness that transactions need to be actually confirmed multiple times until that it arrives to the other side. Although you press send and the transaction went out, it needs to arrive to the other side, and to be seen and to be usable, you need to actually confirm it. And several places have different rules on how many confirmation they require. Exchanges, for example, are notable for requiring the maximum amount of confirmations, meaning possibly waiting very long time. And many people get nervous when they're not aware about it because they think they lost their money. So being aware of the way blockchain transaction works, at least today, and before layer twos and fast transactions exist on the blockchain, except certain blockchains, but especially on Bitcoin, it's not yet the case, is very important to be aware. Otherwise, you may get into panic. The third thing that most people don't realize when you purchase cryptocurrency is how the price is actually structured and why you pay what you pay and what are the fees that you think you're paying, but the fees that you are not paying yet and that you're going to discover at some point. And so we need to list them one by one, but it's important to bear that in mind so you don't have a bad surprise, right? The first one is that there is always a transaction fee when you make a purchase of something anywhere in the world. You always pay a credit card fee or some sort of bank wire or processing fee. This is really, really typical. The second thing is the notion of spread, which you may be familiar from the stock market, the price between the spot market, the price of the average of the market, and the second, the price that you're actually paying, and can widely vary on an exchanges is very thin. When you purchase for a wallet, it can be broader because they need to actually send you the crypto over the network. And so it's not settled instantly. Then there is the business fee, the profit that the exchanges or the wallet is going to make. So you need to add on top of that. And then you have the network fee, right? So this is something that you don't really see when you purchase on an exchange, but you see when you purchase on a wallet, which is actually the cost that it will cost you to actually get the ownership of the asset. And so many times you get a really bad surprise when you purchase on exchange X and you see, oh my God, I need to now pay this additional network fee, which sometimes can be increased significantly by an exchange. So you need to bear in mind that you need to pay an extra network fee to get the ownership. You can have Forex exchange if you pay with a credit card in currency X and the price of the currency of the crypto that Bitcoin you're buying is in currency Y. And finally, there is the withdrawing fee. This is typical of exchanges, which are going to charge you on top of network fees, their own fee, right? So because it's a service that they make you to allow you to withdraw your fee. So the true cost of a crypto purchase is not just the cost of a cryptocurrency, and you need to bear that in mind. Now there is the question, where to buy crypto, right? And so the typical thing that, people think is that first, to own Bitcoin, I need to buy Bitcoin. And this is a mistake. There are many ways you can own Bitcoin without buying it. You can receive it as a gift. You can get it as a salary. You can get it as a part of a cashback program. And you can get it as part of a referral program. So first, there are many, many ways you can own Bitcoin without actually purchasing it. Now, if you want to purchase it, you have two main avenues. You can go and buy it on the custodial exchanges, typical, Coinbase or Binance or whatever. Or the second option is to go to a crypto wallet where you will have the ownership, and a crypto wallet like ZenGo allows you to do that. So you have these two options. You have a third option, which is to go and buy it peer-to-peer. Right? You buy it from someone else directly, and you have a few platforms like Paxful and Local Bitcoin allow you to do that. And so all those services have different fee models and different benefits. Obviously, the benefit of doing it in a wallet is that you own it and you can do all that you want there. For example, right now, if you buy Ethereum on an exchange, you will be incapable of buying or participating into the NFT economy, right? Absolutely impossible. You will need to put it in a wallet, and then you will need to go and buy your NFT. There are other benefits, is that many non-custodial systems have way better APY for earning passive interest than the custodial exchanges, because they are siloed off from the protocols that power these earnings. So you need to balance all the options to buy crypto where you can buy it, and the thing that is most convenient to you. Also, the geography sometimes dictates where you can buy it, and it's preferable to you. In many countries, there are very few options to purchase crypto. Now, you can ask the question, like, where should I hold my crypto, right? Is it better to hold it in an exchange where I purchase it, or is it better to own it into a wallet? And if I choose a wallet, how should I choose it, right? So if you decide to leave it in an exchange, except in places like Robinhood that don't leave you the choice, you cannot move your crypto out. Same thing in PayPal, and same thing in many services. Even services like Cash App, they restrict you severely into how much you can move out. If you are buying it in an exchange, you can decide to leave it there. In particular, it's convenient if you are going to day trade, right? But it's not very safe. As you can read from the news, there are many exchanges that are getting hacked, or that are getting shut down, or that have like different wide change of policies and that are going to affect you. So it might be better to own your assets and to put it to work in a non-custodial system. And so there there are several considerations. You need to look at the security. You need to look at the convenience, whether this is only desktop, which is only mobile, whether this is both. Can it support all the assets that you need, right? How is the security? Am I going to handle the security if I'm not an expert in security, especially to handle the private keys and the 24 words, which is a really big headache? And am I going to be served as a happy customer? And if you know this industry, you know that it is really painful to get people to pay attention to your issues when you have a question to ask. You know, notably all the popular exchanges, even the wallets, they're really bad. And this is, for example, something where at ZenGo we made it like really easy. It's written on my T-shirt. You have all the time customer support. This is something super important in particular for people that are new to the industry. Another thing that is that we get as a question quite often is like, you know, how should I think about investing in Bitcoin? And what are the ways to optimize my placement? Many people are not day traders. They're not able to predict the price or find the right opportunity to make some great trades and everything. And so a good way to think about that is first always think about how much you are exposed to crypto. It's never wise to put a large amount of your net worth to crypto because it's risky assets. So always be very moderate, especially if you start. The second thing is if you are only buying Bitcoin, it's probably wise to consider to put it in a saving account. There are many services that offer that, for example, where you can earn 5, 4, 6% return a year without doing a thing. We offer one of the services and many others do too. So it allows you to, without being an active day trader, to earn some interest. Another thing to consider is having a portfolio, right? But the thing with portfolio is like, don't invest because you heard about it in the news or you see it on crypto Twitter. You need to understand what you put your money on. So do your own research so you can constitute yourself a portfolio. Because I'm short in time, I'm going to go directly to the mistakes, the typical mistakes that we see people making in crypto, and how you can avoid the biggest one, right? The first one, obviously, is to always be very, 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 very confident that the service that you are using is safe, right? How do you do that? You always check the URLs. You always check that it's not a phishing site, that it's not a fake URL. Be very careful in Google. Google doesn't do a great job at hiding the fake URLs of popular services. Same thing with mobile apps and extensions. Always make sure you're using the original one. And if you are looking into a new project, always look at the team, always look at the reputation, always look at the reviews, always do your research before you use a crypto services, and be careful with URLs and always use original. The second thing is never, ever, ever engage with anyone that is asking you to make an investment via social networks or via dating apps. This is a typical channel for scammers to approach people, to lure them with promises of making very high returns, and you will never see your money back, right? So this is a typical way they operate. Never engage with people on social networks and send them your money. Remember, crypto transactions can never be canceled, right? If you have to deal with passwords and private keys, unlike our wallet, for example, where we have made a completely passwordless experience, but if you have to, right, you make sure that you're using the safest security software to keep them, or the safest security measure to keep them. It's not my best recommendation because the password is the mother of all issues. But if you have to do it, then make sure you're using, things like password managers and safe software and very safe location for keeping your password. And I hope that you will have to keep as less as possible so that you are less exposed to things like that. So be very safe. Make sure you're using a clean computer. Do not install random software. Do not click on random links. Okay, be extremely careful where you navigate, and be extremely focused when you're doing something with crypto so you avoid mistakes. Remember, crypto transactions cannot be canceled. So make sure that you're sending to the right address before you send. Some services like ZenGo will show you a confirmation screen with a big white button of the address you're sending to. So you're making sure that you're not making a mistake of where you're sending to. Some services have a cancel button after you send. Very few have. We have one. Transactions can be canceled before the first confirmation. Most wallets don't have it. So be careful. Once you press send, usually it's too late and you cannot reverse a Bitcoin or an Ethereum transaction. So those are really the things that are important to bear in mind. The last one I wanted to mention, and then maybe there will be room for questions, is when there is a market crash, right? The temptation is to panic and to panic sell, and people don't know what to do. They go on social networks, should I sell? They ask their friends, and they don't know what to do with themselves. Of course, the more you are exposed, the more you're going to panic, right? So I think here it's very, very important to have some clear and core principles. As long as you're not widely exposed in your net worth, ask yourself why you invested in that asset. And you should always connect to some thesis. If you invested to make a quick return, you are going to probably panic sell. But if you invest because you believe in the long term of the thesis and the currency or the asset you are backing, then try to remember why you did that, and then it will help you alleviate in that moment, right? So don't try to avoid the situation of panic selling, because this is how people usually lose money. Also, try to not look too much at the news, right? It's not very healthy to be completely addicted to the price tickers, to alerts and things like that. Try to go cool, try to go zen, try to stay zen during those moments. It's not easy. It affects your mind. It will affect your psychology, but I think it's important to discipline yourself and that you should always try to be in control, right? And I think having the ownership of your assets, not being in exchange, helps you get into this discipline of controlling yourself, of staying in control, of staying zen. And this is super important if you are there for the long term and not just for a quick return. So I think I will stop here. We just have like a small gift for you if you want to install ZenGo and you plan to make a Bitcoin purchase. There is a $10 cash back after your first purchase paid in Bitcoin. So here is another way to get some Bitcoin back. And you will see a very nice referral program if you decide to invite friends. It's one of the most generous in the market, if not the most generous. And it's also paid in Bitcoin. So I think I'm done for now. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
We do have a couple minutes for questions, Ouriel. So let's start with this one that I always have, right? And I wish I could ask everybody this, but I can't. Hopefully, you can maybe shed some light. Is how do you decide? How should anyone decide? But also, how do you decide what cryptocurrencies, what coins to buy? What is your process? What is your process?
Yeah. So it depends if you are a starter, a beginner, an absolute beginner, and if you are already an advanced user. But there is a common point between both. You should never invest in things you do not understand, right? So you need to kind of do some research and try to find something that connects with your own beliefs, with your own principle, with your own values. If you find that, then it's likely going to be a good investment for you. And so the way to do that is to look at the way the project is built out, the application, the team, the community around it. The community is very important, the value and the history of the value, and see if all of that put together helps you make a decision. Also, you can, usually people start with Bitcoin because it's the most known, right? So usually the research is more like trying to understand why Bitcoin matters. And there are several ways to do that. There are newsletters, crypto Twitter accounts, great blogs. There are podcasts. We produce a podcast, very simple to learn cryptocurrency that you can find, and many others. So great, a lot of material to find the answers to those questions. So find material and then make your decision.
Maybe I should have asked then, what red flags should someone look for?
Red flags for
what red flags do you look for? You're looking at project, the team, right? In doing all of that research, What is an example or two of common red flags?
Sure. So, cryptocurrency projects are all about trust. So you need to find elements that can connect you, allow you to connect with some element of connection, trust to the project. So how do you find that? You need to look at the history of the project, the team behind it, the investor behind it. If that doesn't convince you, move on. Look at the developer community. Developer is very important. Is there an open source repository? What is the reputation and the engagement with that repository? Is the code audited? Is that public? If you cannot find answers to those, move on. What is the community saying about it? What is the reputation of that project on Twitter, etc.? If you cannot find any positive signal, move on. And so you need to find positive signals around either the team, either the code, either the community.
So non-open source equals bad, usually.
It's not necessarily bad, but it's usually a bad signal. Okay. Open source means more, especially for blockchains, more transparency. It's not enough to be open source. You need to be open source, peer-reviewed, developed, and audited, right? All the acts that we've seen recently, our projects were fully audited.
You talked about protecting yourself. I'm curious what protections you take, what security measures you take.
Me personally?
Yeah. Or what measures you recommend?
Sure. Well, the first one I would recommend is to avoid using anything that has a password as much as you can, right? So I know there is this narrative, get a hardware wallet or get a cold wallet. But the thing you have to remember with cold wallets and hardware wallets or any wallet is that the moment that you have this password that is in the hand of anyone else that is not you, it will be used and your money will be gone and forever. And so the best way to not lose a password is not to need one. So we have built for ourselves a solution that we want to use and that we can recommend. And so we try to use as much as possible passwordless systems, including internally in the company, in the way, for example, we handle our own passwords and the code that are sensitive to the company.
All right. Ouriel Ohayon is the CEO of ZenGo. Ouriel, thanks a lot for coming on today. Appreciate the time and the thoughts.
Pleasure.